All right, guys, we're live. It's Justin Stenstrom from Elite Man Magazine, and my guest today is the one and only Dr. John Gray, coming back on the show, I believe, for the third time. John, thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Happy to be with you.
Yeah, it's always a good time having you on. We've talked about so many things in the past, and I got a bunch of questions for today that I want to pick your brain on because, you're like an encyclopedia of information, man, across all boards too, biohacking, health, relationships, dating. I mean, you really are, just full of wisdom, and it's awesome to have you on.
Thanks.
So in this episode, I want to kind of cover a couple of different key topics, but one of the biggest things that sticks out is the gender roles between man and woman today in the 21st century, and like how it's changed, especially the last, it's been changing the last few decades, but especially the last 5 to 10 years, it's really changed. And what are your thoughts on that? Let's just kind of take the conversation right there. What are your thoughts right now on how things have changed in the past couple of years?
They've changed dramatically. What really changes a lot is women under 35. What we've seen in the last 10 years is used to be men went to college and women went to college less. That's back in your 50s. Then suddenly started changing. And in the last few years, last 5, 10 years, now we have 2 women for every man graduates from college.
Wow.
And generally speaking, a college degree means that you're going to make more money. So a lot of women in relationships, often women don't feel attracted to a man who doesn't make more money than her. That's a general thing. Certainly there's going to be some exceptions to it. But there's kind of a clock inside of women that says, if I got pregnant and couldn't work, I want a man who could provide for me. That's always the dynamic there. Men don't have that dynamic. So men generally feel like, I'm not marrying a woman for money, or that's a major factor in it. Whereas for women, security is the word they'll use, but the security is that if I couldn't work, you could provide for me. And that's a really key thing that's on top of their mind. Security it stimulates the female hormones, which are required for women to have a sense of happiness and well-being. Whenever they need higher levels, 10 times more estrogen than a man to feel secure. They need 20 times more estrogen than a man to fall in love. Now, that sense of security that women get when their estrogen level's high is that what triggers estrogen is feeling I can depend on someone. So what can you depend upon a man for? So the trick is, as women become more independent, they don't depend on men. So they can't fall in love with men. So many women are not even interested in getting married. They sort of see a man as a child they have to take care of. He's not giving to her. Many women in relationships feeling like, look, I'm doing everything. He's not doing anything. And imagine a relationship like my relationship for a second. If we look at my wife, Bonnie. Now, my wife, Bonnie, has passed, I'm sad to say, 2 years ago, but I talk about her in present time because she's very present in my work and in all my books. So forgive me that. But in our relationship, a bit traditional in certain sense, and that I was the big money maker. She had a job, but didn't even come close to the amount of money I made. So she really wasn't depending upon me, depending on me for money because she had so much money. Okay, so there was still that sense of independence. For example, let's look at the worst thing that could happen. She could divorce me. Will she be set up the rest of her life? So in that case, she loses her ability to be dependent on me, even though we have more of a traditional relationship where I'm the provider and so forth. Now, the point I'm making is imagine I was dependent on her for financial support and I didn't have a job. She just happened to be more educated. So it's more logical that, and many couples are going through this. She can make a lot more than him. So you stay home with the kids, I'll go out and work. So imagine my wife going out to work hard and she comes out like I feel sometimes burnt out, long trip, delayed trips, whatever. You're stressed that everything didn't go the way you want. And I come home, my wife says, oh, honey, I'm so happy to see you. I just went shopping. I bought all these cool things. I want to show you, do a fashion show for you. She used to do that. I'd feel great. She would take me from feeling knocked down by life to feeling wonderful because she was doing what she loved to do. Now turn that around and see a woman goes to work. She feels burnout. She comes home And her husband says, oh, honey, I'm so grateful that you make so much money. I have a nanny, could take care of the kids. I played video games all day today. I'm so good at this video game. Or I went golfing with my friend. She'll be so pissed off at him. Yeah, I do all the work and you just sit home and have fun. You know, there's a real difference between men and women. And that's not just the way we're conditioned to be. It's biological. Women need to feel that I can depend on a man for well-being, and women, if they're heterosexual and in a relationship. And if men don't feel that they're contributing something meaningful to a woman, that she needs you, he'll sit around and play video games all day. He'll lose his passion for his mission, his sense of purpose. Purpose comes up when somebody needs you and you realize, oh, I got to get up and do this. And if I didn't have a job during this COVID thing, I'd be really depressed if I couldn't go to work. Because what I would do is, because I have plenty of money, so I could sit home with my money, but I just watch TV all the time and do nothing. Fortunately, I have to get up to do the show with you. You know, every day I do, what am I doing? 2 hours on Facebook Live, you know, just every day, so that I get up and I have to do something. Because, you know, I could retire theoretically, and I'm 68, almost 69. And that kills men. See, men have to feel, they have to wake up and go, I'm needed in the world. And you need the stimulus for that. You need to put yourself in a situation. Whereas women typically don't need that as much. They have this nurturing instinct that the world needs me all the time. That's why women often feel overwhelmed. I have so much to do. It's hard for her to be the major provider in the family, come home and relax. You know, she'll, oh, this needs to be done. This needs to be done. She can't turn off like we can. So that's one of the big challenges that happens. A few dynamics of, as women are going more to their male side, it can sabotage relationships unless, and again, when I paint a bleak picture, I'm pointing out why so many people are not getting married, why there's twice as many single people, why divorce continues to be so high. And that's basically not understanding how to cope with this new situation of women being more independent and men not knowing, hey, what's our job? The idea is, and Beyond Mars and Venus address that, which is typically if a woman is more independent, she needs help to come back to her female side. And the quality of female side is estrogen. And estrogen is when you feel dependent on someone. So what are these strong women dependent on? They need someone to help them sleep at night. They need someone to help them reduce their stress in life. And what does that mean? It's learning new skills of communication, to listen more, to empathize more, to do little things that are romantic, to plan dates. These are the things that we really need to become proficient at, the more independent a woman is.
Yeah, there's so many different questions I'd like to ask. I'm just gonna try to stick to one area though for now. And so with this new dynamic changing and men say making less money than women, how can men feel like they're still a man if they are, say, in a relationship where they're making less than the woman? Or if these the way things are going with the dynamics, women just feel, I don't want to say more empowered, because empowered's a good thing, but they feel more, say, independent, and they don't need a man. How can men step up to the plate more and feel more like a man, while also making the woman feel like, it's a better dynamic to be with a man like that than to be, say, independent by themselves?
Well, that is the crisis. There's not an easy answer to that. This is about women. We're moving in the direction of women realizing that, and this is evolution. Winston Churchill said that, you can always rely on Americans to do everything wrong until nothing works, and then they'll find a solution. So we are leading the world in wrong right now, which is women being way on their male side and feeling like they don't need men. And now some women, and gradually it will be most women, are waking up and going, I can make all this money, I can do all this stuff, and I'm stressed, I'm not happy. And it forces them eventually, that unhappiness, to come back to, I'm lonely. And that comes back to, I need love and support. And then they might read a book on how to get love and support and realize how they've been doing it all wrong. And so we're kind of in a waiting game here as guys, because you have to realize that when women are not putting out a strong message that they need men, we don't get that support. That used to be a support. It was just, every man knew if you wanted to have a woman's love, you need to have a job, you need to make money. And that motivated us. And in practical terms, we'd get laid, but also we'd have a family and children and so forth. Because there's nothing in my experience that makes me feel more masculine than physical intimacy.
Good way to put it.
You know, when you're holding your spear and it's saving the world, you feel like a real man, and you can be, you know, you can stand me next to Bill Gates or anybody, any man, you know. I effed my wife today and she had massive orgasms, and I know you didn't. There's I don't know. It's my experience, but also I remember seeing a movie where there was this guy, and I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but it was a sweet movie where the guy seduces this woman, and he's really so artistic and so forth, so very expressive of how he feels. And at one point he says, you know, I compare myself to the men who make so much money, but I know they cannot do what I can do with a woman. Because ultimately, feeling like a man, okay, you go work out in the gym, you feel like a man. You know, there's a great TV show called Dirty Jobs. Okay, dirty jobs. Just do a dirty job. You'll feel like a man. A difficult job, a dangerous job. Why those things make you feel masculine? Not that you have to, because none of that. I don't do anything difficult, dangerous, or dirty. I just do the job in the bedroom. But also, but I also, you know, I'm productive. I'm serving all the time. It's just when you serve, when you're selfless and you get acknowledged for it, and to a certain extent, you could be kind of this selfish guy. But the fact that you go out and do the dirty, dangerous, difficult stuff for your family, and you don't whine and complain about it, you feel like a man. But what allows you then to go a step further in feeling great about yourself is to have a woman be turned on to you. That's the bottom line. And women are just too low estrogen to actually love sex. There's a place of when a woman is more independent, what brings her back to fully feeling I need a man, it's I need to bring him inside of me and make me feel like a woman. That can sound so sexist, I know, but you know, that's the reality. You don't get in relationships with somebody unless they turn you on. That's what we want. And we want great sex. Often men don't understand how to provide great sex for women, but it's tough today because women they can't have an orgasm unless their estrogen levels double. And you can't double your estrogen unless you feel I really depend on someone. I need someone. I'm not happy without someone. That's what stimulates estrogen. So if a woman's to be turned on, so, you know, I have tremendous compassion for men married to their wives. They're not having any sex. And it's because she's so pressured all the time. You can't get the juice going in a woman if she's feeling worrying and pressured and I've got to do this and I've got to do that and so forth. That's why we have to learn romantic skills if we have the cooperation of a woman in this whole thing. Ideally, it's her learning to open up and share, him learning to ask questions that allow her to open up and go more vulnerable inside. Because see, the more competent a woman is, the more independent she is, often she's very competent. And so the two types of independence, maybe more, but one is I've been burned, I'm betrayed, I can't trust people, so I have to do it myself. That's one kind, and that's trauma that needs to be healed. She needs good coaching, good therapist coaching, read my books, whatever. But another one is she's just so competent, you know, she's educated, she gets the job done. And see, the workplace, how you make money is you put yourself to the side and you make somebody else more important than you. You know, you serve, okay? You find practical ways to get your goals achieved. And it's not about every step of the way. It's not about, oh, I like doing this, I enjoy doing this. You make sacrifices, you know, it just, you know, actually my whole life is a series of giving up playing and having fun. Sometimes when I want to write a book, if anybody tried to write a book, it's hell. you know, I'll tell you an interview I heard that I liked so much with some writer. They say, well, do you love writing books? He says, I hate writing books. I hate it. And I kind of relate to that a bit, even though once I get into the flow, I love it. But I have to give up regular sex. I have to give up spending time with my children. I have to give up feeling my wife really happy because, you know, that was her sacrifice. When I write a book, she'd say, look, this is hard on me. I'm used to you being there present for me. Your mind's on your book. You know, it's just like, it doesn't shift back to her the way it normally would. So she put up her sacrifices, and it's hard for a woman to feel all juicy inside and receptive inside if she's over on her male side. So this just ruins sex lives. Okay. That's the problem. And really, what's the difference between getting married? You're drawn to a woman as a man. You want sex. You want a good sex life. You know, you should test her out, go for several rides before you even think about a relationship, because, hey, you need to have that experience of feeling I can perform well and I'm successful. If a woman's really low estrogen, it will tend to make a man have premature ejaculation, unless he happens to be really low estrogen. But if a woman has low estrogen, men will tend to go to their estrogen side, and ejaculation for a man is when estrogen levels spike and testosterone goes down. So it's like you always have to maintain your sense of self to last longer in sex until finally you surrender, your estrogen levels shoot up, and it's over, done. And that's why women like that ejaculation from a man. They like that until they learn. If men learn not to ejaculate, then you have sex every day. Okay, you never lose interest in her and that part of her and so forth. It's quite wonderful. But women are actually the ones that are wanting you to ejaculate. One, because they're not really enjoying it. They've kind of done theirs. and two is they can't have an orgasm, so they'd rather you be done. And they've never really experienced being fully open, because, you know, there's a whole generation of women that are so masculine, they don't even know what a real orgasm's like. And they do studies on this. And, you know, I didn't do those studies. I read it in books, but half the women have never had an orgasm. The other half have never had an orgasm. And that other half, 50% of them have never had an orgasm without stimulating with a man inside of them. Okay, the orgasm inside of a woman is the best. I mean, you can give a clitoral orgasm, but one half of those half that have had orgasms only had it with a vibrator, not with a man. I mean, we're talking about out of work completely. You know, you can't do the job. And there's a biological function in men that regulates testosterone levels. When women have orgasms, our testosterone levels will go higher. When women are interested in having sex with us, it's because they've had orgasms. If they haven't orgasms, why am I doing this thing? It's kind of like disgusting, dirty. It's an obligation. And this is such a crime against men, you know, and yet you'll see it all the way through society. We have this negativity towards sex, when sex is what makes babies, you know, sex gives life to everything. And a guy who wants to be sexual and a woman's not in that place, she feels disgusted by it. Because she's not in that place. I want to give her a break there. She can't enjoy sexual touch until her estrogen levels are 10 times higher than a man's. Okay, so that's a big difference. She's got to be in touch with her femininity to enjoy sexual touch, and then it enjoys more and more and more. That's why when I'm teaching relationship skills, I'm saying, look, man, you need to hug women, non-sexual touch. You need to compliment them. You need to reassure them. All this stuff that means, wow, why do we have to do all that stuff? It's a lot of little things. It's not really big things. It's little stuff to soften her up until you've given her a few big orgasms. And then she says, I feel so soft. I feel softened. You know, that's what women are looking for. They just don't know it. They don't know what they need, unfortunately. You know, I gently tell them what they need. They don't want a man telling them what they need. They think they know what they need. I'll tell you one thing for a fact. If you're not happy, you don't know what you need. Just like we can talk about brain hacking. You know, if you're sleepy and low energy, you have no idea of what you need. You know, you need certain nutrients, you need dietary shifts, you need changes to be made in your life. And she's over there blaming you. You don't turn her off. Come on. You know, she needs to know what she needs, articulate in a way where he can hear it. But they don't have that knowledge. I mean, we have to be forgiving and compassionate. This is new relationship skills. All it took a long time ago to have a woman estrogen go up was you make money. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot of money. It has to be enough money to have a home, a security, and for the children. It didn't take a lot to make a woman happy from a man, and nor did she feel all these requirements of you. You know, women today, they're so picky if they're the single women. Not all women. Some women are very happily married, but it's a very small percent now. They get very picky. And part of being picky is you're not doing enough to make me happy. That's not enough. That's not enough. And when you feel not enough, then everything around you looks like not enough, as opposed to accepting someone, appreciating someone, feeling so lucky. You know, if somebody helped you win the lottery, you don't mind what they wear, how they look, whatever. You're just so grateful for them. This is what we should be feeling some of the time, not all of the time. is I'm just so lucky that you're in my life. And a woman's bottom line feeling is I'm so lucky I don't have to do this all myself. And that's where women will get to. They're going to get to this place of I'm tired of doing this all myself. I want a man who, quote, take care of me, which is the feminist, devil side. I don't need a man to take care of me. I don't need that. I can do it all myself. And I know I'm talking extremes here, but they point out that, the variations in between. I remember when I would open the door for Bonnie in the beginning, at times it would be, I can do that myself. I said, of course you can do that yourself. You're not a child. However, you do so much for me and for the kids and everybody else. Let me take care of you tonight. So it gave permission for her to come back into herself and let someone take care of her with little things. It's not a big deal to open a car door. It's not a big deal to plan something 20 minutes in advance so she doesn't feel rushed. It's not a big deal to not drive so fast. It's not a big deal to stop at yellow lights. These are things she needed to feel safe. And what I discovered is that, for example, how I drive when she's in the front seat is one of the best forms of foreplay there is. Because see, what generates estrogen is feeling dependent on someone. And when you're in a car, whether you're conscious of it or not, your body knows you're in danger. That's why, for me, particularly during COVID, where I don't have my normal travel experiences to pump up my testosterone, because you're facing danger. And if you're confident, you produce testosterone. So I still every day go out and drive my car on the highway, drive around everywhere. And it's dangerous. Even though I drive safely, it's dangerous. And maybe I drive a little not so safely, but it's by some people's point of view, by her point of view for sure. But when I'm in the car with her, if I slow down, I pull over into the middle lane rather than the fast lane, let someone pass me, which before I married her, I never experienced someone passing me on the highway. It was a whole new experience for me. What? How did that happen? Yeah. So, but I pull over and I said, I'm in the middle lane because I love you. And she would say, yes, I know. And I appreciate it. So it was an acknowledged sacrifice on my part. Not that I have to give up driving fast. I give it up when she's in the car, for her comfort, for her ease. And that's important for the male ego. If she just said, you should drive slow, you're one of those bad drivers, I would have gotten defensive. Wait a second, I'm a better driver than you and any of these people around here. I'm a race car driver. Are you kidding? I know how to drive. I've never gotten in an accident. I got the whole thing. I can park in 1 second, So I'm very proud of my driving skills. But you see, I would get all defensive like that. But if she says, John, I know you're a great driver, just I'm not that way, and this is out of my comfort zone. It's not about you, it's about me. So when you slow down, it's a gift to me. Then suddenly I drive that way. I make sure she knows I'm doing it for her so she can take it personally. And so what's happening is her life is in danger, sitting in a car without an accelerator, without brakes, without steering wheel. You are depending on someone. You have to trust them. And whenever you can be in a situation where you trust someone, your estrogen levels go up. Whenever you're in a situation where someone's depending on you and trusting you, leadership role, you're driving the bus, your testosterone goes up. So, it's like we have to create situations where we can now generate that type of relationship where a woman is dependent on a man and a man feels she depends on me for something very significant in her life. And women still haven't woken up to how significant it is not to feel I don't have to do this myself. And they're going to wake up, and they are waking up. And unfortunately, they don't have the skills of how to generate that estrogen through communication skills, allowing a man to, in a sense, be like her personal coach, to be like her personal therapist without too many therapy skills, but just listening, empathizing, and then doing some romantic things like planning a date, giving her some compliments, being affectionate when you see her, give hugs during the day. That can start to soften her. But it won't soften her if she's not open to receiving that. And when she's way on her male side, she's not open to receiving it. She'll call you a sexist. What, you think I can't open the car door myself? I'm paying for this meal. All that stuff. It's happening today, and it's destroying that natural polarity that would maintain attraction. And when couples do get involved, the younger generation compared to the older generation now, your generation, what happens is within 3 years, the passion's gone. Sometimes even in the dating situation or 6 years, there's no juice. It's just like they're friends. They don't hate each other. It's not like, you're this awful violent person, or you're a drug addict, or you're a woman who's never happy. How can I be with you? They lost the juice. They're not having sex anymore. So when couples get divorced, they either say we're ending it because we love each other, we're just friends, or they say we're ending it because he's terrible or she's awful. They're ending it because they're not having great sex. That's what's happening. Yeah. They don't say that because that means they're personally responsible for it. Nobody wants to take responsibility for losing a relationship. But that's what's happening. They can't keep that passion alive. And so let's transcend to get to the real reason why couples can't sustain passion, which is the big question on people's minds a lot, is newness stimulates passion, not communication skills. But when newness goes away, you need to have communication skills. And what kind of communication skills? Communication skills that make her feel more feminine, and communication skills that make him feel more masculine. He goes from zero to hero every time he sees her. Life can knock me down. There's always somebody better. But with my wife, I'm the superstar. Because of me, she's so happy and lucky. That's the key. And I am so happy and lucky because I found her, perfect woman who can appreciate me, all these wonderful qualities, and also qualities that I resist a lot and sometimes get upset about. But then I back off, let it go, and come back by looking at all the good which is there.
Yeah, there's so many great points that you make. And one thing that really sticks out for me is the fact that you mentioned a lot of like stand-up guy type of things. Like I feel like a lot of men have lost over the years, especially the last few years, but like, opening the door for the woman, being affectionate with the woman, compliments are a big one. And I think a lot of guys are scared to do some of those things, like complimenting, especially maybe the affection stuff, because they don't want to come across as needy. They don't want to come across as like trying to like be too nice to her, like a nice guy syndrome type of thing. But I think if you can do it in a confident way and still be strong about it, it's incredibly powerful. I know from firsthand experience, like personally, the like dating the last few years when there's women, and I didn't do this 10 years ago either. I was kind of like the same way. Like I didn't want to over compliment. I didn't want to come across as like too nice. I wanted to kind of, be more of the attractive guy and like the cool guy as opposed to like the affectionate guy, the loving guy. But what I found personally is that the sex is way better for both people when you can do those types of things like you're saying, and the woman like opens up more and she trusts you more and she's more into you. When you see those types of things, because you're being very affectionate, you're being complimentative, or whatever the word is, to the woman. Yeah, she opens up more, and then all of a sudden, like, you're more turned on because she's more into you, and she's like more all about the sex. Next thing you know, the sex is incredible because you guys are both so into it. I mean, is that what your experience has been like?
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. And coming back to the very beginning of what you said that qualified it is not being needy, not being so dependent on her approval of you. We need approval, but if we expect too much, then we're needy. We feel insecure, and we're looking for that reassurance too much. And so basically, the stand-up guy has a greater sense of, I don't depend on your mood to determine how I feel, one. And another one, to get out of the friend zone, because that was also mentioned in what you just said, is she asks you, well, what are you feeling? Don't tell her. Don't tell her. Your friend, if you talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
Now you can talk about feelings if she has taken the risk and the courage and the trust of you to open up and share her feelings. If a woman has been that vulnerable, you can match her vulnerability without being needy. But if you're more vulnerable than she is, you're a friend zone.
Yep.
You're a child. You lose the sexual attraction from her to you. And a lot of guys, I remember at one point when I first started talking about this, guys they'd say, I can't talk about my feelings with men, they would say, if I tell them this, if I say, look, don't talk all about your feelings with a woman. Well, if I talk about men, they'll just laugh. And I say, well, you should laugh. You should laugh about your feelings. You know how men process feelings? We laugh about them. And there's times when it's a big problem, you don't laugh about it. When my wife died, I didn't laugh about it. I grieved for 2 years. That's a big deal. There's an old saying in China, a man does not cry. Now, this is not saying you can't ever cry, okay? But he says, a man does not cry unless his heart is broken. And which basically the essence of that is you don't get emotional men unless the problem is big, as opposed to women. Biologically, you can see this, is that under minor stress, now minor stress versus big stress, minor stress is adrenaline production. And when women have an adrenaline production, not cortisol, but adrenaline production, they have 8 times more blood flow going to the limbic system of the brain from the back part of the brain. Just goes right up into that part of the brain. Blood flows there, and not in men. Under adrenaline response, no blood goes to the emotions. We detach. Okay, so that's the whole thing about men, is learning detachment. If there's a problem, what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? What's the solution to this problem? Is it a real problem? Do I have to make a, can I minimize it? Can I forget it? Can I avoid it? Whatever, we solve the problem. You don't need emotions to solve a problem. If it's a big stress, now cortisol levels are being produced. What's happening in men is then they start becoming emotional, and they're negative emotions. Okay, and see, stress, a cortisol means you're not handling your stress well. You're chronically you have a strong emotional reaction. So it's a big thing about stand-up men, is that we don't dump our anger on women. And you can be angry about things if you're going to talk to somebody you're not angry at. Now, if we're a primitive man, we use our anger to intimidate others to get what we want. That's going out of date now. You know, maybe a few people still can get away with it, but you know, we have so much freedom, so much choice. Why do I want to work with anybody who's going to get angry at me? You know, and how can I trust somebody who gets angry at me? And so the people who are like these guys that get all angry, people just go, I don't want to do business with them. And particularly women don't want to do business with you, and they don't want to hire you. They don't want to work with you. It's because anger shuts a woman down. And now you can be angry, but not talk. And if you become a good listener, you can control the situation. Because when a man feels out of control, that's where anger will come up. Stand-up guy is in control. I can't control you. I can control me. See, that's what being stand-up is. It's being in control is I can manage me to be the best person I can be. It's not about trying to control you. When a man is insecure, anger comes up to control you. So now suddenly anger becomes this manipulation force. Women often use tears and hurt and blame as a manipulation force. Fear, I can't trust you, as a manipulation force. For men, I don't care about you, just like F you, that kind of a thing. That's a manipulation and threatening. And because as monkeys, we did all that, you know, we had those emotions. So, and when we're under high stress, cortisol, blood flow stops to the front part of the brain. And now we are all out of control. Women are out of control. Men are out of control at that point when blood flow stops here. All we can do is react the way our parents reacted when they were out of control. Whether you saw it or not, doesn't even matter. It's in your DNA. DNA is passed on one generation after another, how your instincts are and how your automatic conditioned responses are. So that doesn't go away. I've got all 7 generations, they say, with at least animals, it goes on 7 generations. You know, I got my father's nose. I got my mother's lips. You know, we got our parents' stuff inside of us. And how I can be uniquely me is I take a little bit from him and a little bit from her, and I use it up in this part of the brain. And now I can choose how I want to respond differently and under stress, if I can not let myself escalate into that state where no blood flows here. I can respond to situations versus react to situations. A response is a choice. But to make a choice, that's why knowledge is so important. That's why I love doing your show. I mean, this is like, I love spreading these ideas. I do it all the time. You know, I have my office here, and right to my right over here is another doorway to another room, to a bathroom and a window. And right in front of me is a door to get out. Now, if you want to get out of my office and you can't see the door in front of me, you're going to go through the bathroom, climb out the window. It's very uncomplicated. It's difficult to do, but that's the only way you know. And then I say, hey, you keep going out that door. There's a door right here. Oh, I didn't see it. Yes, it works. It's not locked. Go over. Then they open it up and go out. Now that person from then on will always go out the front door. Why? Because now they know about it. That's where I keep focusing on things that people don't know. And then all you have to do is know it, and a change occurs. You know, everybody knows you shouldn't get angry, but the truth is we do get angry. But if a man knows If I talk about what I'm angry about to somebody I'm angry with, then my anger will only increase and my testosterone and my feeling like a man just goes down, doesn't go up. And the image I get in a woman's mind is I'm not safe, and therefore she won't want to have sex with me unless she has psychological problems. So women with psychological problems, daddy beat her, daddy was cruel to her, daddy beat mother. I mean, these awful things that happen when couples don't know how to communicate. Now she's going to fall in love with a guy just like daddy, because she's going to get turned on to him, because she's going to try to change him, try to get him to love her. She still has this thing about, I want to get this man to love me. And so here's this great guy over here. He's got a job. He's not violent. He's kind. He's generous. She goes, yeah, he's really nice. I'm just not turned on to him. Because she has a trust issue. She trusts the wrong person. If you trust the wrong person, it means that you've got something wrong inside of you. And so you end up not trusting the people you can trust. And that's their own inner stuff. So, because I know a lot of guys go, hey, I'm this great guy. Why isn't this woman turned on to me? Because she's turned on to the guy who's married, the guy who's violent, the guy who's a drug addict, the guy who's not available, the guy who's got all these women, who's a womanizer. And deep inside, intuitively, she knows he can't give me what I need. So I'm going to try to convince him to want me. It's like, I'm going to be the one. So I'm going to give him what he wants. And so she loses herself in that process. He never calls her back. He's not, because he is that. He's not ready for a relationship, or not ready for a relationship with her. But she gets all turned on right away. And then she meets somebody who's healthy and good. She doesn't get turned on right away. It's actually a good sign if a woman doesn't get turned on to you right away. That means that she's actually seeing you, because women tend to get turned on first in their mind, being interested in you and curious and whatever. They're curious. They want to get to know you. It's like we're curious as men. I wonder what she looks like naked. You get that? I mean, that's us. We're like, we're thinking, what does she look like naked? What's she like in bed? Well, a woman is, what's a conversation with you like? What's your history like? What kind of person are you? Who would you vote for? What is the way you think? That's just as much, that's what they're about. They want to connect first in the mind. Then that makes them feel safe. Then their heart opens before it goes to their genitals, and their heart opens in response to polarity. The polarity of you providing male energy, you expressing male energy. What can I do for you? How can I do for you? What can I provide for you? I'll pay for the meal. I'll drive the car. I'll plan the date. I'll spark up a little conversation, and then I'll be a good listener. I'll come and help you move your apartment. That causes women to fall in love with you. Guys don't get it. If you can get in a situation where you're doing something literally for a woman, estrogen starts getting produced. And then her heart starts to like you more. She starts to feel affection and love and warmth. Then the energy goes down, and then she wants to have sex with you. And if you know how to have sex and you're a guy, then she's going to wake up and go, my God, I love penises. I need one. That's mine. That's a really good sexual relationship. Just like we feel, I adore my wife. I give my life for my wife, and I love her naked body, and I love having sex with her. To have a woman feel that way about you, but they don't get to that right away. It takes time for them to get down there. Just as for a man, it takes time for his energy to go from down there all the way up to being interested in her, wanting to do things for her, and so forth.
Yeah. It's a really interesting topic. I did want to ask you a couple more big ones, but the first one is, what are your thoughts on feminism? And you mentioned before, there's like some parts of what you say in some discussions, I'm sure, that you've said in the past, that some feminists would hate you for, like they would totally disagree with you. And so what are your thoughts on the overall feminism movement right now as it stands? And you think it's a good thing or a bad thing in general?
Well, first of all, what's the lady that was the big spokesperson for it? Darn, her name always blocks out when I want to talk about her. I can remember it afterwards.
Is it from years ago or kind of recently?
Yeah, years, the beginning of the whole thing.
Like women's suffrage and all that stuff?
No, not back that far.
Okay.
It was, that's the good woman's movement. Okay?
I agree.
That's the good woman's movement. Okay. They were still women, and they wanted to protect their men. They wanted a better world. They wanted equality. They demonstrated for equality. And that I really love. It's where it started turning into becoming negative about men.
Yeah.
When women, they're the ones that caused us to go into where you can't buy alcohol. And then it was them who changed it and said, now you should be able to buy alcohol.
Really?
They saw that that didn't work. That just created more crime, and they wanted their husbands to be safe. And so they changed the rules. I mean, women are amazing, and equality is something which was, its time had come. And even to talk about why there wasn't this equality of the vote and why women, all these rules, okay, about women, there was oppression of women, but at the same time, many women were okay with it. This is where feminists would hate this, okay? Many women are okay with it. Well, they were conditioned to be okay with it. I said, no, go to the Amazon, go live in a jungle with people who actually don't have all your beliefs, and you'll see that women are very happy taking care of the children, cleaning the house, and doing certain cooking exercises for the family and making beads and various things. They were gardening, and they have strict gender rules. Men aren't allowed in the garden. Why? Because that's the woman's place. They can talk, they can share, they wash the clothes in the river. Men aren't allowed to be there. Women want to talk freely because men, they don't know how to listen, and they think differently, and let them go. They didn't judge men for that because they're men. Nothing wrong with men. They're men. That's what they do. What would we do without men? Who goes out into the jungle? The guys go out in the jungle and do the hunting. So they do hunting. They risk their lives. And women, by the way, aren't allowed into the jungle. Now you could think, oh, poor women, they were oppressed. No, women didn't want to go into the jungle. It's like men go, no, women don't go into the jungle. We have to go in the jungle. But basically, we are expendable. Women are not expendable. They're cherished. They make babies. They're our mothers. You don't kill women. You don't hurt women. You men, if somebody's going to die, if somebody's going to do dirty, difficult, dangerous, it's the men that did that. There's a war, you put the man standing out guard. Men have to go out and do that stuff. Men didn't complain about it either. I mean, this is the funny thing. Imagine if you were designing male-female roles, and the way you design it says, okay, women, what would you like to do and what do you not like to do? Well, she'd say, I like taking care of my kids. I like cooking and cleaning. I like spending time with women. I like gardening. Okay. All right. That's what women get to do. And what is it you don't like to do? I don't like to go into the jungle. I don't like to be barefoot there. I don't like snake bites. I don't want to get sick there. I don't want to have to fight wars. I don't want to have to deal with the neighbors. They're terrible. You know, I don't want to have to go out and kill things. Okay. Well, you don't like that? We men, we will volunteer. We'll do that for you. And then the rules get set up. That's what it's all about. Now, along the way, everything in this world becomes corrupted. Okay, people get corrupted. Women get corrupted and men get corrupted. I look at relationships today, and I look at every time couples have problems, I don't care what they are. If they spend 20 minutes with me, I'll point out to a man how he completely created it, or a woman spend 20 minutes with me, I'll point out to her how she created it. We're not victims in life. We create this dynamic of dissatisfaction. We are responsible for how we feel and what we do and what we get in our lives. And I know it's harder for some people, and some people, you know, are oppressed. There's definitely oppression. There's always been this kings and queens. Kings and queens, they all are oppressive. Are you kidding? But people couldn't make choices in their life at that point. They're like little children. They couldn't rule themselves healthy. You needed a big person to say, look, you can't do this. You've got to do this. Now we have a constitution. It's supposed to be our rule set so people can be more free, but they still have to act within the constitution. It's like I'm driving my car and I come to a stop sign. You know, I have to stop at the stop sign, and this other person who was there before, they get to go before me. I have to yield to them. These are like rules that we have to set up, and that's civilization. Nobody's being oppressed. You know, somebody's sitting there on the corner and they want to take a right into the street, and I'm going along. I have the right of way. Yeah, I'm not being mean to them. You know, I have the right of way. This is how it works. Yeah. If they were going to my thing, they would have the right of way. So there's certain privileges. There's all these things that were necessary as we evolved, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, depending upon circumstances. Now, what are the circumstances that I saw corrupted the world is when you become a king, basically, and you're a man, you get too much respect that you didn't earn because you get it by birthright. And so people finally figured that out and said, nobody gets to be king by birthright, because the worst thing happens to men become very dysfunctional, or typically become dysfunctional if they don't earn their status. You see, if you just give me a status, I will become insecure because I don't deserve it. I didn't earn it. I feel unworthy of it. So then that gets pushed down and I become dysfunctional. So you'll see a lot of I think it was a Rockefeller wrote a book a long time ago, one of them, the billionaire families, and he talked about how males, particularly the sons of millionaires, that was like a billionaire back then, were generally became drug addicts, alcoholics, divorce, womenizers, and playboy. I love the phrase playboy because it's not even a man. He plays, he's just playing video games, he's playing, having sex for fun, whatever. There's no stand-up purpose or mission in his life because he never earned that status that he has. And that's very important for men to earn it. When women earn it, they just become more stressed out. Women, as that the female side of us is always worthy of love and support. It's like two dynamics of the world. There's the family and there's the work world. And the work world, if you don't work, you don't get money, period. That motivates us to work hard. If I want to get more, I work hard. Look behind me. I wrote all those books to be who I am. I spent 10 years promoting myself before I even had one successful book. You have a goal, you have a mission, you work hard. And now what happens, unfortunately, is some people work hard and they don't get rewarded for it. And that's what happened when these rulers, and they still exist, half the world is in slavery now. When a man does a job and he doesn't get properly compensated for the work he does, okay, then he's going to become dysfunctional. He doesn't get the recognition he deserves so he can successfully provide for a woman. That's a horrible place for a man to be. Now, I don't have to be the richest guy in the world. I just have to have a job that I can support my family well, so my wife can feel like she doesn't feel pressured that she has to do all these things she doesn't want to do. She does what she loves to do. Then if she's doing what she loves to do and she doesn't feel all that pressure, that's good for me. Pressure stimulates testosterone if I'm confident. Okay, that's what men need training. They have to have that's what men used to do what their fathers did. You saw what the father did. And I saw my parents' relationship was very traditional role mate relationships instead of soulmate relationship. It was, my dad was a good provider. That's all my mother cared about, really. And they had sex, but it was, he would come home and then come home, watch TV. That was it, and if the boys were rambunctious, she'd say, okay, I'll tell your father about it. And that was it. And he had the belt, that was the day when you used to whip kids, this was Texas where I grew up. Yeah. It wasn't unusual. And so you learn out of fear to behave. And so my mother was a happy woman. She had a nice house, wasn't extravagant. She didn't need extravagant. She basically just had her sense of, I want a house, I want children. She had 7 children. She lived in a nice neighborhood, and so nice that she could also hire someone to help her, a maid, they called maids then. And there was a country club walking distance away. So she could just say, go to the country club. When she had too much, she had help. Women used to have, that's like having a community. If you go to the Amazon, you'll see other women are raising your children. You're all together, and a woman never feels like, I have to do it all myself. When a woman feels I have to do it myself, that's being on her male side. That produces testosterone, and testosterone inhibits estrogen production. Too much testosterone, little, you can balance it with estrogen production. That's called having a job, and there can be pressure in that job, but you love what you're doing and you feel confident what you're doing. Then, and you have support, okay? You love it because you have support. You're not feeling I have to do this all myself. I, on the other hand, love feeling like I can do it myself, okay? It's kind of like an extra, people say to me, well, gee, John, you travel around the world, you don't have an entourage, you don't have a guard. I don't need any of that. I do it all myself. I teach these big seminars, and I have my friends, Tony Robbins is a friend. He flies in his jet. He's got a whole entourage of people. He brings furniture with him. He's got the whole shebang. Well, he's a big guy. I do the whole thing myself. I don't have anybody doing sound. I just do it all myself. And I love that. That's my style. It just makes me feel good. He has his style, and certainly we all have different styles. But part of what makes me feel good is I know what I can do myself. That's a testosterone producer. And also I have tremendous support. I won't say I do everything myself. Having a publisher, for example, is having a team of 100 people working for you without even have to pay them. So, I like to insert myself in other people's situations so I do less and accomplish more, which is a theme in my life, which is, again, balance of male, female. I don't burn out. I always take time to do it. I enjoy doing, and I take time to do what my work. And most of the time when I'm working, I enjoy doing it. That's the male, female sides of us.
So just real quick to kind of wrap it up on this area before we move on, what do you think, in like a summary, do you think it kind of went wrong in, say, like the 50s and 60s when women were kind of forced to provide on their own and be more independent? And, the testosterone goes up, like you mentioned, and, that family dynamic sort of broke down with women going into the workplace more and more, which, again, having equal rights and all that stuff is an incredible thing. But when taken too far, it
That's right.
has,
Any,
it has
any
its
good,
side
that,
effects.
I think you summed it up. Any good thing, equality between men and women, is freedom.
Yeah.
So women should have the freedom to be independent, or the freedom to be interdependent, or deep. They should have freedom, and we as well should have freedom. So you choose, but you choose. There's the freedom, and when something's not working, you should have the freedom to go the other direction. And without the knowledge, it's hard for women to get back to that place. And unfortunately, with the current situation for many feminists, particularly the way they teach it in the universities, is that gender doesn't exist. I'm going to read a quote from this book. I just happen to have it from today.
Yeah.
Masculine and feminine are not social constructs. That's what's taught in universities, the opposite of that. What's taught in universities is that gender doesn't exist, and it's just a social construct that we put on each other. And this is like denying of the truth completely, of reality. It's like some completely different fantasy. It says, while some consider naming our different characteristics, masculine and feminine, to be arbitrary or artificial, they think this is all, somebody just made it up. And these distinctions are actually grounded in biological male-female differences. And they sell this idea that there aren't any really differences, because the truth is, another part of the truth, I can be very feminine and I can be very masculine. And right now I'm both, okay? I'm both. That's my wholeness. Yeah. But if I'm stressed, you can measure the hormones in my body, I'm more feminine. And if a man is stressed, you measure the hormones in his body, he's more, that's the man. A woman who's stressed, she's more masculine at that time. That's the reality. It boggles my mind, but they're selling everybody gender doesn't exist, and that makes men wrong for being masculine and makes women wrong for being feminine. A simple example of that, my neighbor, I'm kind of a nice neighborhood I live in, and my neighbor's a doctor, it's 2 doctors, husband and wife team, and they both went to college together, they became doctors, which is a big, long process. And then when she graduated, now she's a doctor for a few years, she decides she wants a family, and she quits being a doctor to raise her children until they're all grown up. And then she goes back to being a doctor, which she is now. She said all of her friends disowned her. They were mad at her. They felt betrayed by her because she was actually taking time to be a mother.
That's terrible.
Now, deep inside, they felt betrayed on the outside, but inside they're jealous. Why do you get to have a family? You've got to stand up for women. We don't need to just have families. We should work hard. You can have it all in life, but not all at the same time. That's what women need to get. They don't have to give up having a career and whatever. They just need to be responsible. If they want to have children, as opposed to you go to the whole process of making a baby and then you're working all day long outside the home. That's just wrong.
It's terrible. Yeah, and I think more women are doing that, working, I saw like some CEO of some, maybe Yahoo or something a few years ago, was like doing 80 or 90 hours a week, and she had just had a newborn, and everyone was like celebrating the fact that she like just went back to work like a month after having the kid. I'm like thinking, even back then, like not really knowing as much as I know today, I'm thinking like there's something wrong with that when we're celebrating the work over like the family life and the child and, raising the young infant. But I want to wrap things up in a moment, but I did want to get your take on.
That was basically the lady, Lean In. She wrote a book called Lean In, and she was talking about how she makes time for her child. She's the CEO of this big company.
Yeah.
But also, she makes time for her child, who is in the office next to her, by the way, because she's the CEO. She can have a whole nother room where her child can be there, and maybe several nannies going through different shifts taking care of the child. Oh, what a great mom she is. That's just the reality. It's people's choices. I'm not judgmental of it. But if you're not going to be happy and fulfilled, you need to realize there's certain things that you're denying inside of you that you need to find. And that's my message is. And so we have taken the wrong direction. Society has gotten too far of a good thing. But here's the redeeming side of it. And there is a redeeming side. I think it's an evolutionary impulse to go the wrong direction to discover the right direction, one. And two, as women have moved way over to their male side, it creates an inner confidence that if a man was to desert me, I can support myself. With that strength, they're able to now come back to a place where they can depend on someone. So ultimately, it works. I mean, it's going to work more and more, but we need the knowledge of how to help women come back to that place. And my parents had a great relationship. My mother depended on my dad. My dad was dependable for certain things. But that relationship would not work with my wife today. My wife, she wants affection, understanding. She wants some romance, but also she enjoys the sex. Okay. I mean, it's not like she's having sex to please me. She wants the sex. And I know why she wants the sex. I know how to provide it. And I also help her get to the estrogen level to where her body can go, this is the best thing. I can't find this anywhere else. I'm so lucky to have you. That's what we really need to be the stand-up guy.
John, I do want to wrap things up in a couple moments. I know we got to kind of get things going, but what is your take on dating and relationships in this era that we're living in right now, the pandemic era, the coronavirus, all this stuff going on? How has it affected it, and from what you've seen in just the past few months, and how is it kind of going to be affecting it in the next couple of months?
I think that if you fast from food, when you finally get food again, it tastes really good.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good thing on one level, which is, you get so picky. I have this choice. I have this choice. I have this choice. It diminishes the value of what's available to you. And so there's a place where people are going through they're feeling their emptiness. They're feeling their loneliness. They're feeling their need for a relationship. They're recognizing how important relationship is. So if you're isolated at this time, that's the benefit of it. And there's a good reason for it. It's like a reset for people. And for couples who are in relationships, they're going through a lot more turmoil. I mean, because they've got someone fighting. Violence has gone up in relationships. Desires for divorce has gone up dramatically during this time. And people are having to learn, if you're in a relationship, I call it the 80-20 rule, which is you really need to make sure 80% of your happiness and fulfillment is not dependent on your partner. And so what happens, I think, is if people get really, really upset, they'll go through an official separation after the COVID comes out or during it. But once they're separated, they'll be forced back to having to be happy on their own without blaming their partner, and they'll get married again. You'll see this is going to happen. More people are going to get divorced and come back together. It's already happened before. I saw it with Men Are From Mars. So many people got divorced and came back together after reading the book. In this case, they're going to come back together because they realize that, when they're feeling happy based upon, now I can't blame anybody for my unhappiness. I've got a life that makes me happy. Their heart starts to open and they remember that they love their partner. And so there's going to be a lot of reunions. I wish those people could read my books at this time so they can understand, like when men go to their cave, it's not about you, women. And if a woman's upset, men, it's not about you. Let her be upset for a while. Do little things for her and she'll come back. But don't make her wrong for being upset. Women need a lot of connection and they're not getting that. And men need a lot of challenges separate from their partner that they overcome. And without that, our worst self shows up. And then we have these arguments and we say things like, why should I even be with you? Well, then I'll just leave and I don't care about you. And I don't know if I ever loved you. Crazy stuff comes out of us when we're not talking from the front part of our brain. And if I could just let them know, what comes out of your partner during this time is not their true colors. Often we think, I knew that, you really feel that way. No, they don't really feel that way. That's what they really feel when they're not themselves present. That's the conditioning that comes in when they're in a fight or flight situation. So let's not buy into holding people to what they say, do, or feel during this time, but let's forgive them, move on, and recognize we have the power to bring out our partners, the best of our partners.
Nice. And the last thing I got to ask you real quick, because you're such a health guy, this biohacking awesome dude who just does incredible things. When people have asked you, and I'm sure they have, what you're doing to boost your immune system, be at your best health-wise, like during this time, and make sure you can fight off any type of virus like this that might come your way. What are you telling them?
I have no concerns at all about health. I'm a healthy guy. Okay, I do an aerobic exercise every 2 or 3 days where I really push myself to the max. I also I have more resources, so I do it more efficiently. and I've got a recumbent bike and I got with fans blowing on me. And I've got one of these big balloons that blows up with oxygen. It takes about an hour and a half for it to fill up with O2. And then I've got the altitude that generates high altitude. So I'm doing high altitude, low altitude, alternating while I'm pumping it out. And in 20 to 30 minutes, I've just done a massive workout. Every cell in my body's pouring sweat. So I really need to do that. I noticed that before I did that, I was more motivated to do that because when we went into isolation, my blood pressure started going up a little bit. So that meant I needed more physical activity. So it's back to normal now very quickly, just one workout and it went back to normal.
Wow.
But so I do that. That's for my cardiovascular health. That's really, really important. I'm always just, whether it be COVID or not, I have one meal a day. That's my thing. Maybe some snacks at night, not too many. And then, but the one meal, I'm just pretty healthy. You know, I'm not vegetarian. I eat some meat. I don't eat a whole lot of meat, and I eat some vegetables and I eat some salad. Okay. So, but I will have, for breakfast, I have, it's not a meal, but I have a very low calorie superfood shake that I formulated. I just think it's like super for the brain. If you can just notice, you know, you're looking at a guy who's 68 years old, whose brain just works great. Okay. Now, when I was 50, I had early stage Parkinson's. So I revamped my brain tremendously. And it was primarily by getting protein, pre-digested proteins. If you do a test on how much protein is digested by your body, only 25 to 30% of the protein is actually utilized, and the rest has to go out as toxicity that your body has to remove, undigested protein. Now, if you were to do that, and if you were stressed, you maybe get 5%, 10%. So if we're stressed, we're not getting our proteins to break them down into amino acids to make dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and all the good brain chemicals. So you got to digest your proteins. And most of our, like soy shakes, are getting very little protein anyway. But if you do dairy shakes that are undenatured, that means they haven't been heat processed. And what I figured out is instead of just doing dairy, cow milk is 90% casein, 10% whey protein. And casein's hard to digest. So most people just do whey, and whey without casein does not build muscles and does not make your brain work better. It actually relaxes your brain too much. And you lose your motivation if you're a man, get ADD type symptoms with too much whey. It's kind of like manana, who cares? I don't care, I'll have fun. You know, that's too much serotonin. So I would not recommend a lot of whey protein for men. It's easy to digest if it's not heat processed. What I did is I took cow's milk and I took 50% casein and 50% whey. A little bit more casein for men, a little bit more whey for women. And this is what mother's milk is. If you go to mother's milk, you'll see human milk is this balance, different balance for baby boys, a different balance for baby girls. More whey protein, more casein for males. But casein is hard to digest. Everybody says, oh, don't take milk, don't take casein. That's because they have an allergy to it or they can't digest it. Well, what if you pre-digest it? And that's what I've done, is created a form of protein powder, and you put enzymes in it and minerals to activate the enzymes. It's all a mix. You put it together, 2 scoops, put room temperature water, and let it sit for 30 minutes. It will bubble. It digests itself 30 to 45 minutes. Oh. And then you can put it in the refrigerator and have it for breakfast the next day. It's all set. I'll put some ice in it, blend it up, enjoy it like a milkshake or something. And then I also take super minerals. These are 2 things I formulated for my Parkinson's and restored my brain function and all this stuff. And the super minerals are 5 alkalizing minerals that are necessary for the healthy production of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. And those are my favorites. The other one I just mentioned, I've got so many favorites, okay, over the time. But for me, sometimes, I sit in meditation a couple hours a day, and sometimes my knees start to hurt. I spent my whole life in meditation. I used to do 18 hours a day in meditation. So it put some stress on my knees. And so my knees, if they start to hurt a little bit, that's muscle pain, joint pain a little bit. Then what I found for that is something called serapeptase. Are you familiar with serapeptase?
Yeah, it's a proteolytic enzyme.
Yes, it's in that category.
Anti-inflammatory, right?
Yeah, anti-inflammatory. And, people say to me all the time, how to get rid of high blood pressure. Okay, aerobic exercise and serapeptase, boom. It's so easy to do. I've helped many people get rid of the high blood pressure. And what we know to be the case is COVID is that, when they say people have these health challenges and conditions, well, it's not that they have health challenges and conditions, it's they're taking drugs for health challenges and conditions. It's the drugs that, particularly the high blood pressure drugs, have been proven to upregulate the receptor sites into the lung to attach to the COVID virus. So a high percent of anybody who's having strong symptoms, sickness, or death from this COVID virus in the lungs, they're already taking something which is managing their blood pressure, because those blood pressure medicines, and what they need to do is tell their doctor, hey, I think that this blood pressure medicine might be making me more vulnerable. I want to go on this plan of taking serapeptase, and I want to do more aerobic exercise. I'm going to practice meditation and lower my blood pressure naturally. So I need you to monitor my blood pressure. Tell me how to do it. Because if you were to actually do good things for blood pressure and still take your medicine, it would be not safe. Because blood pressure medicine pushes your blood pressure down. And if you did something to normalize your blood pressure, then your medicine would push it down too far. And that would that would be dangerous.
Wow.
So actually, to become healthy, and this is true almost every drug you take that a doctor prescribes, if you were to become healthy, the drug would actually have a more adverse effect on you than it's having now. But this blood pressure medicines are really making you much more vulnerable to this COVID virus. So those are the main things I do. But keep in mind that for me, once in a blue moon, something happens and I get really pissed off. Okay. I mean, I like get really, really angry. What will happen within 24 hours is I will get a herpes blister on my lip. And that's a sign that because I have herpes, and if my immune system goes down, they just pop up.
Yeah.
And not that that's the sign for everybody, but I can see that my anger, and even when I start to get angry about something occasionally in a blue moon when it happens, I'll go, I stop because I immediately go, I don't want a herpes blister. Just cool it, go take a cold shower, forget this problem. It didn't happen. Stop. Nope, not going to get upset about it. So it may be a little bit more disastrous for me because it's such a shock to my body if I get angry about something. And that's actually kind of an interesting concept because a child could have very loving and supportive parents who only 3 times lost their cool. And that's actually a much bigger trauma to the child than the father who was dysfunctional the whole time. That's a very interesting thought because it's like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. The reason they were so scary is it's always in the moments of total safety where the bad guy shows up. It's like the woman's taking the shower, then suddenly he's going to be stabbing her. Then from that point on, you can never be comfortable in a shower. So who's behind the curtain, So it's if you're in a very safe situation and something dysfunctional, dangerous happens, then there's a whole place of not feeling safe when you're feeling safe. You see how that works? And so I don't know how I got off on that one, but it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, that'll mess you. What do you put on, say, an outbreak anyways, by the way, like what's good for that? Lysine or aloe or something like that when you get a herpes outbreak?
Yeah, aloe hasn't done much for me on herpes outbreaks. I wish I could tell you the name of this one substance, which you go online, there's a particular substance that is good to take and actually put on it. I have a variety of things. It's been so long since I've had an outbreak. Let me just think for a second. I'm sorry, it just doesn't come up.
No, I know. There's a ton of good ones though that you can do. I know bee propolis is another one they recommend sometimes.
Bee propolis is another one. First thing I do, first thing is immediately, if I notice that's starting to happen, I go for ice. Mm-hmm. You want to ice it. You literally want to physically cool it down. You want to cool that area down. And what is it that I use? It's been so long. I'm sorry. I have a.
It's not tea tree oil, is it?
I have some device that does it. That stops it, but I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry.
That's all right. That was just a
totally random now I remember what it is. You get it online, and it's a little battery thing with 2 prongs that come out, and you put it on there, and it will stop an outbreak. And you put it on every 10 minutes, and you put it on there, and I forget the name of it. Sorry.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
If you go online, I remember where you find it. If you go stop herpes breakout, they'll give you 10 things. And of course, the top ones are what the person's trying to sell. But one of them will be this little virus aider or something like that. And it looks like a little like a little battery covered with white. So a little square white thing with 2 prongs sticking out. And that has worked for me. I won't go anywhere without it because, as a public speaker, you can't go on stage.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually thinking that when you said that, to be honest. Yeah. Because you said you speak a lot.
So it's a virulator. So you do ice on it right away, and then you put this thing on for a minute. The red light goes from one side to the other, and then you wait 10 minutes and do it again and do it again. And it will stop it from growing. If you catch it where it hasn't popped out much, then it will never pop out. You can actually stop it completely.
Nice.
So you notice that feeling, you put ice on it, and then you do the viralizer, something like that. Viralizer, I think it's called.
That thing, is that like a solution, or is it like some kind of electrical thing that's going on?
It's an electrical impulse. It's sending, what he figured out is that there's a certain frequency that if you run it across and then turn it and run it back the other way, actually automatically it shoots one side the other, then it shoots back this side in a 1 minute period of time. That sort of upsets them and they don't come out.
Yeah.
And you have to do it every, for the first 6 hours, you do it every 10 minutes. I do, because I'm totally panicked.
Yeah.
If I'm in front of an audience and it comes out, it's just so disgusting.
They suck. I don't blame you. Yeah. All right, man, just wrapping things up. What's the final takeaway message you'd like to leave the Elite Man audience? It's been an incredible interview, as they all are. Just a send off takeaway message, and then a place our listeners can check out your work. Okay. You can check out my work, free workshop called at my homepage at marsvenus.com. Also have a course you can take, is something called Mars Venus in the Bedroom, a good course on sex. Sex, I think, is really the bottom line of lasting relationships today. So that's on sex. Then that free course, also Facebook Live. I'm doing a whole series every morning, Pacific time, 10 to 11. I do Facebook Live answering questions like we're doing. So that's fun for people. Nice.
I enjoy doing it. And usually sometimes it goes 2 hours, but the first hour is the most important. So John Gray Mars Venus is Facebook Live. MarsVenus.com is my website. And then there's also a free relationship course there for singles, single men, single women, married men, married women. So you get a specialized course for whatever your status is in relationship. So that's what I got going for me. I welcome anybody to come join it and get some tips. Even if you know it all, you can always be enriched by sharing with somebody who also knows a bit too.
Nice.
Oh, and awesome. I do another thing, which you might check out. The Facebook Live Mondays is Meditation Monday. So I teach meditation on Mondays, and we do group meditations. I have a unique form of meditation. I've been doing it 50 years, all these meditation things. So I think I've updated it for people. Tuesdays is relationship. Wednesdays is healing the heart, processing your emotions. Thursdays is achieving your goals. And Fridays is single life and sex. So those are all available.
Cool. I'm going to check those out myself. That sounds awesome, man. And yeah, thank you so much again for coming back on. We've always had a great time chatting, and I know our guys love this one. So take care, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.